संदेश दिया है।
जो हम लोगों का महागठबंधन है, हम मिल करके आगे काम करेंगे।
Over the last 12 hours, the government of Bihar has changed again. But as is the case for the last 15 years, the same individual remains Chief Minister, Nitish Kumar. Now, whether you call him Palturam or a seasoned politician who knows how to read the tea leaves is entirely up to you. But what is fascinating is how we have seen two chief ministers in a span of 40 days facing a threat and dealing with it very, very differently. Now, while Uddhav Thackeray in Maharashtra was caught largely sleeping at the wheel, while his close confidant, aided by the BJP, pulled the rug from under his feet, Nitish Kumar, the perennial survivor in the Game of Thrones of Indian politics, seems to have preempted attempts at ousting him. Nitish will be sworn in tomorrow at 4 p.m. as Chief Minister of Bihar. This is for the fourth time. This time he has the support of Lalu Yadav's son, Tejasvi, and the Mahagathbandhan. But for this political phoenix, Nitish Kumar, the partner at the other end has rarely mattered. The BJP is stunned today, angry and lashing out at the opportunism of Nitish Kumar, who has no qualms in switching sides time and again. But it would be short-sighted to say that Nitish Kumar alone has been a political opportunist. What then led to this twist and what next? Let's begin with how the day unfolded. Now, at 11 this morning, that's when it started, JDU leaders met at Nitish Kumar's residence. At 11:15, there was a crucial meeting of the RJD at Rabri Devi's residence. By about 1 in the afternoon, leaders of the Mahagathbandhan, including the Congress, began arriving at Rabri Devi's home. By 2, the deal was pretty much sealed, with Nitish Kumar being announced as the leader of the 7-member Mahagathbandhan, the same one he dumped in 2017. At 4 this evening, Nitish met the governor and resigned. An hour and 20 minutes later, he was back with the governor, and Tejasvi Yadav was in tow. They were there to stake claim to form the government and said they had support of 164 MLAs. Now, needless to say, all sides have their reasons for the actions that unfolded. Let's listen to what they said.
हम लोग पूरे बिहार को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए लगे रहेंगे और समाज में जिस तरह से एक विवाद पैदा करने की कोशिश हो गई थी शुरू, वो हमको अच्छा नहीं लगता था। आप अच्छी तरह जानते हैं ना। आप तो एक बार 17 में हुए थे, 17 के लस्बा में आए न थे। हमने तो कहा ना कि हम ये सब कोई चीज जो कहीं कुछ करेगा गड़बड़, जो कुछ होता है विभिन्न धर्म के लोगों का, तो वो सब हम लोग नहीं करते, वो सबका एकता रहनी चाहिए।
नॉर्दर्न इंडिया में अगर आप देखें, हिंदी पट्टी में देखें तो भाजपा का अब कोई अलायंस पार्टनर नहीं रहा। एक भी अलायंस पार्टनर भाजपा का नहीं है। और ये तो इतिहास बताता है कि भाजपा जहां रहती है, जिसके साथ रहती है, उसको खत्म करने में लगी रहती है। आप पंजाब देख लीजिए, आप महाराष्ट्र देख लीजिए, और जो बिहार में हो रहा था वो किसी से छुपा है क्या? हर एक लोगों को पता है कि क्या भाजपा की तैयारी थी।
आप जीते नरेंद्र मोदी के नाम पर बिहार में लोकसभा चुनाव में। आज आपकी भी संख्या 14 हो गई है। 14 में संख्या भी कितनी थी? 2। तो आप 2 से 16 हो गए। अकेले गए तो आप 2 पर थे, फिर लोकसभा में 16 आ गए। किसके नाम पर जीते? नरेंद्र मोदी के नाम पर।
All right, so a lot of anger, consternation on the side of the BJP. Tejasvi Yadav saying that, the BJP now has no allies in the Hindi belt. Nitish saying that it was time, all the JDU MLAs have agreed. But what are the real reasons for the split? Why in just 5 years did Nitish find the BJP divisive again and the RJD, who he had accused of Jungle Raj, more palatable? So, couple of reasons. The alliance was rocky, with BJP having won many more seats in the 2020 assembly election versus the JDU. So Nitish's party was the junior partner, yet he got the CM chair and he wasn't allowed to forget this. He rebelled by openly disagreeing with many NDA policies, the latest of them being the Agnipath scheme. He made his displeasure clear by skipping several central government invites in the last few days, including a Niti Aayog meet and the swearing-in ceremony for President Murmu. Right before the events of the day, JDU leaders were accusing the BJP of trying to poach their MLAs and execute a coup like in Maharashtra. By the way, this is not Nitish Kumar's first U-turn. He has switched sides between the BJP and the RJD at least thrice in the last decade, which is why he's called the king of flip-flops. Now, for example, in 2013, Nitish snapped ties with the BJP. At that point, he was upset that the BJP had made Narendra Modi the chief campaigner ahead of the 2014 elections, and that's why he split that alliance. In 2015, he finally forged an alliance with the RJD and the Congress. At that point, Nitish spoke about the greater good in Indian politics. In 2017, midway in the middle of that term, because they won that 2015 election, he dumps the Mahagathbandhan and says he heard his inner voice and the alliance couldn't work. At that point, he thought the RJD was implementing Jungle Raj. 2020, he is back with the Mahagathbandhan. He resigns as CM, quits NDA and accuses the BJP of poaching his MLAs. But we also have to look at the bigger picture here. Is Nitish's move an overhang of what's happening in Maharashtra? Is the BJP losing allies at a furious pace simply because, friend or foe, BJP is a threat? We, of course, have the examples of Nitish splitting, but the same happened with the Shiv Sena, who saw the vote share of the BJP growing from 12.8% in 1995 to 26% in 2019. The Akalis had to break up once they realized the BJP's position on farm laws will sink their fortunes in Punjab. And there are a slew of erstwhile partners of the NDA from TDP to TMC who parted ways. The fear seems to be that the BJP will grow at their cost. So, what are the implications of today's events? Could Nitish be projected as a joint opposition prime ministerial candidate? Will his switch give a boost to the opposition campaign in 2022? Will Nitish's move make other NDA's allies wary? And will opposition politics start centering even more on non-Congress options? These are some of the issues that we're talking about today on the show. To speak on this, I'm joined now by Ratan Sharda, political analyst, Subhrashta, author and founder of The Churn. They're joining us on the show. I'm speaking with Sharat Pradhan, senior journalist, and Sanjay Jha, author and former Congress leader. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us today. Sharat Pradhan, let me begin by just getting your take on what we've seen. No one seems surprised anymore when Nitish turns from one side to the other. But does any partner trust that he will stick on? Does Tejasvi Yadav today believe that Nitish is going to be a long-term partner in Bihar?
Moment, I think it is a political compulsion for both. And I don't think in Indian politics one should be surprised at turncoats. And there is no political party which can claim that they don't have their leaders not doing it. They have, including the present ruling dispensation, the n number of times they have made partners with the most unthinkable political outfits, and then they have parted ways. So it's no surprise that Nitish, yes, you're right, that he has earned this reputation. No wonder people call him Paltu Ram or whatever. But still, Nitish is known for certain values. After all, he's the product of the JP movement, and that is the reason, that is his mainstay. Mind you, Bihar is a place where BJP failed to do what they did in UP, the hardline Hindutva. UP became a Hindutva laboratory, and ultimately they brought a saffron-clad man as chief minister, and they succeeded, election after election. Whereas in Bihar, the caste configuration, which we in the journalistic jargon we often call it the overriding factor in Bihar has been Mandal, whereas UP it is Kamandal.
Okay,
it has been Kamandal. So that way, it is not an easy ride for the BJP. And for the considering that what lies ahead, I don't think Nitish Kumar has any will even attempt at switching sides anymore, because this is This
Who
is
knows?
the juncture.
Who knows,
where he
Mr.
needs to-
Pradhan, whether he'll attempt? It seemed like that in 2017 as well. It seemed like that in 2020. Who knows? Bihar is simple. I mean, you're, of course, the political master, but 1 plus 1 is going to be larger than just 1. 2 versus 1. It's a three-cornered, race.
It is often 11. In politics, it is often 11.
Yeah. Yeah. Ratan Sharda, I want to look at the bigger picture this evening, and great to have you on the show. What is it telling you about the BJP? You know, in my opening comments, I drew a parallel between Uddhav Thackeray and Nitish Kumar. One chief minister didn't see it coming. The other one seemed to have sensed that his days were numbered or his position was threatened, and he pulled the rug before it could be pulled from under him. But isn't it also telling about how the BJP treats its allies and how its allies perceive the party? Friend or foe, the BJP seen as a threat?
First of all, on a lighter note, Sharat ji talked about Nitish being JP movement product. Even Lalu Prasad is a JP movement product. Even Sushil Kumar Modi is a JP movement product. And we know where Lalu is. So let us not hark back to JP movement. And on the Nitish, let me say that Nitish has made the same blunder that Chandrababu Naidu made in 2014 by dumping the BJP when the tide was in BJP's favor. Nitish was the ruler in case of this particular alliance with BJP because BJP gave it respect. Sushil Kumar Modi was the foil which kept Nitish Kumar happy. But in case of RJD, RJD is a very aggressive young party today. It has got a leader who wants to rule in every possible way Bihar, and it's a very aggressive party. We know how Lalu worked. And Nitish is going to regret because he is going to be only a figurehead and he will not be able to really rule the way he was ruling earlier on. Of course, he is already tired. He is not doing what he was doing as Sergeant Babu.
Okay.
And most importantly, Modi was never a favorite of Mr. Nitish Kumar. He never liked Modi. Let us be very honest. Not just last month. For years together, he has been only using Modi to survive. And now coming to the BJP allies, remember in Maharashtra, Shiv Sena was going against the grain of BJP, Shiv Sena, MLAs and workers themselves. So that is the reason entire Shiv Sena has moved to BJP. And what you have is a rump of Uddhav Thackeray, who did not understand the pulse of his own party. So there is no comparison because RCP Singh is no Shinde and nor is Nitish Kumar Uddhav Thackeray. So the comparison is spurious, I would say, to put it very mildly. And it is going to be a moment for which... for now, Nitish, it is only downhill. He may succeed to do something in the national level, but will it turn to a Shiv Time will tell.
But I'll tell you why that comparison, I think, may not be totally spurious, Ratan Sharda, simply because in both cases, you have chief ministers who don't have majority on their own. They are dependent on their numbers. Nitish Kumar saw the way the winds were blowing. You know, my point, Sanjay Jha. Yeah.
Tamanna, Sena was having a good say. They were being ruled by an NCP and Congress. And in case of Bihar, Nitish was ruling the roost, not BJP. BJP gave him full rope.
Why was he so unhappy then? Why was he so unhappy? From the last several days, he was so unhappy. 1 minute. Sanjay Jha, I want you to come in on the question of BJP and its allies. Now, is Nitish Kumar writing his own political epitaph by dumping the BJP when they're at the height of their power? There's no question about it. We saw what happened with the JDU in 2014 in the Lok Sabha elections. They were reduced to close to nothing. So has he really abandoned a ship which is sailing, not sinking at all, it's sailing very well? Does it make sense what he has done politically?
Tamanna, a very valid question. And the response to that has to be by asking, why would he do it? Why would Nitish Kumar disturb a ship that you believe was sailing rather smoothly despite the turbulent waters around it?
No, I mean by ship sailing smoothly, I'm talking about the BJP. It's the most powerful party in the country. I mean, nobody can deny that. Why would Nitish dump them just 2 years ahead of the general election?
That's exactly my question. And the answer to that is very straightforward, Tamanna. It has to be a very compelling reason. And go back a few years, actually this relationship has been far more fragile than we expected it to be. For the simple reason that in 2020, when the elections were held last, the BJP openly tried to torpedo Nitish Kumar's JDU by playing the Chirag Paswan card. it was known to everybody in Bihar politics. I mean, Pradhan ji would know, including, I think, the other people on the panel. Ratan Sharda ji would know as well. The BJP, if you look at the stats of Maharashtra, you put up a number there on vote share, but the BJP has always piggybacked on strong regional powers and then consumed them. And this is a new politics, because this was, you see, Nitish Kumar allied with the BJP during the Vajpayee era. But remember, even during the Vajpayee era, he questioned the role of Narendra Modi in the Gujarat riots. Remember that even before Modi became Prime Minister in 2014, Nitish Kumar rocked the boat. He left the alliance. Why would he do that? He took a very calculated, politically, I think, in my opinion, a moralistic stand. He said, I want a secular candidate from the NDA. So if at the end of, you look at the relationship thereafter, it was always very tenuous. And I can tell you for a fact that
you are now ascribing to Nitish Kumar. I mean, you may support the move, you may be happy with the move, but, you know, the high moral ground cannot be ascribed to Nitish Kumar today. You have to admit that. He chooses a side as per convenience.
No, Tamanna,
and there may be a greater good at the back of his mind, but he chooses a side as per convenience. There's no doubting that.
Fair enough. In my opinion, I believe that 2017, when he moved away from the Mahagathbandhan, was a terrible political blunder. And I think that's the reason why he's done a U-turn today. But there is one thing that you need to understand about JDU and RJD. Both Lalu Yadav and Nitish Kumar were actually part of the same party once. Remember that. And they were part of the same movement. So they were more ideologically compatible than what Nitish Kumar has been with the BJP. So if the alliance is broken up, frankly, it is far less astonishing than we are actually accepting it to be.
I mean, it seems more convenient than anything else. Subhrashta, I'd like your views on all of the events today. And let's start with the question of, didn't the BJP see this coming? Can you hear me, ma'am?
More than that, well, whether BJP saw this coming or not, or whether it's part of a larger, strategy that the BJP has to make Nitish irrelevant is a question that you should genuinely ask the, BJP spokespeople. The question right now is, Tamanna, in front of people like us, ordinary citizens of Bihar, is how does it matter to the to the ordinary general citizens of Bihar? At the end of the day, it is one somersault after the other. Whether it is with RJD or it is with the BJP, people of Bihar are utterly confused as to what policy narrative this entire shift is going to bring. Nitish ji did what he had to do in the first 2 terms of his governance. There is nothing new that he is adding to the table. And I'm sorry to say, Sharat ji, but the current Bihar today does not need socialist politics. The last socialist leader we had in Bihar was Karpuri Thakur, and whatever Nitish has been doing or Lalu did was all a part of, Karpuri Thakur's legacy. They haven't added anything new to the entire Bihar political discourse. Yes, as a woman from Bihar, as a girl who has been raised into a woman from Bihar, I can tell you that I'm a staunch supporter of Nitish Kumar in terms of the women-centric policies that he brought to the table. But beyond that, today, I don't think Nitish Kumar is as relevant in politics as he is made out to be. Last elections and this elections, it has been pretty clear that Nitish cannot form a government on his own. He either has to ally with the BJP or he has to ally with the RJD.
Right.
So the real competition today in Bihar is between the RJD and the BJP. So this whole drama of me being not treated very well inside the BJP camp or inside the RJD camp has to go. He has to really prune his ego. He's not the largest party in Bihar. He's not even the second largest party in Bihar.
I just want to point out here.
Get into an alliance.
No, I just want to point out here, you are drawing a parallel between Nitish Kumar's relevance and the numbers of the seats he gets. He is still going to be Chief Minister 8th time. He always manages to get the top post even though he doesn't have the numbers to back it. He manages to be in power without actually having power.
Tamanna,
how can you call that irrelevant? That's a model politician should be studying. Yes.
May I respond now?
Yes, please go ahead.
So then if you are so relevant, then why every 6 months, why do you cry that people are not respecting you? You shouldn't then, right? As a very moral leader, you should then take a stand that I'm resigning from this political hullabaloo. Can't he see that whether it was, I worked for Nitish in 2015. It's a matter of public record. In 2015, it was said by the very same people in the JDU organizational structure who are revolting today that by allying with the RJD, you have made RJD relevant in Bihari politics. You have rekindled hope in RJD. So then why does he cry foul? Why did he cry foul after making, a government, after running the government for a couple of months with them? Why did he cry that Tejasvi and Tej Pratap were not respecting him? Today, why is he crying about respect with respect to the BJP? Please understand, Tamanna, Bihari politics cannot be understood from, the doyens, from the surroundings in Delhi. The ground reality is that today BJP top leaders might be worried. BJP Karyakartas are very happy.
Okay.
Just like Nitish helped RJD resurrect itself in 2015, this is the final nail in the coffin for Nitish Kumar. And BJP and RJD are going to put all their might to further marginalize and corner Nitish Kumar into a dungeon from where he's not going to emerge. Because he has nothing new to offer.
Sanjay Jha, respond to that.
Voter,
nothing new to offer. Nitish has gone into the dungeon of irrelevance, political irrelevance, says Shubhrashta. Your response to that, Sanjay Jha?
Yeah, a very quick response. It is very easy to brand RJD as a corrupt party with all the charges on Lalu Yadav, etc. But please remember, it's the same public that Shubhrashta you're talking about that has given RJD the maximum seats at 75, 79, and has 79. Given 24% vote share to the RJD.
I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that, Sanjay ji.
Just a minute. Let's not try and insult a public verdict. My second point is this, and this is very crucial to understand. Nitish is fully aware, okay, and everyone is entitled to a political ambition, that he's been chief minister for so long, assuming that he had stayed with this extremely tenuous relationship with the BJP, and even if they won another assembly election, Nitish would have been at the December of his political career as a chief minister of Bihar would have been his final chapter. And now, in my opinion, Tamanna, the opposition space is up for grabs. The Congress, hopefully it'll do something surprising and, pull a rabbit out of the hat. But the truth is, at the moment, it's only Mamata who was at the moment seen as an alternative to the Congress as a front runner. But with Nitish in the game, it does provide the opposition with a tailwind. And you cannot deny that, as Shubhrashta also correctly mentioned, and I'm glad she's been very dispassionate about it, Nitish has a good governance track record. And this is without any alliance to do with the BJP
or the... But Sanjay, the more candidates for Prime Minister on the opposition, the better the BJP does. Election after election has shown us that. Well, how is it a tailwind for the opposition?
But let me tell you, I have a feeling that somebody like Nitish can probably bring about a greater degree of, shall we say, collaboration. And people will probably coalesce on his name much more than Mamata, who's turned out to be a bit of a disappointment. I rate the decision of the TMC to not vote with Margaret Alva on the vice presidential election as a major political blunder. You can't be the leader of an opposition and be so petty and parochial in your decision making.
Okay, so Shubhrashta wants to quickly respond and then I'll come to Ratan Sharda. Yes, Shubhrashta.
Yes. Tamanna, 2 quick points. Firstly, whatever I said was with respect to the JDU, not the RJD. I am a staunch, I staunchly detest the RJD for its politics and policy, but RJD is the the largest political party in Bihar today and has claimed people's mandate. There is no denying that. The point that I'm trying to make is, it is JDU which is irrelevant today with respect to the big political game that is happening between the BJP and the RJD. So whether Nitish sides with Lalu's camp or it sides with BJP, this party JDU is going to be thrown into irrelevance if it does not reinvent itself. Come on, Tamanna, we all know what the awesome work that Nitish Kumar did with respect to the women citizens of Bihar. But how many women spokespersons do you see from the JDU?
But Subrashta,
how
tell
many
me this.
solid organizational women do
If
you
that,
see in the JDU?
if that was the
Look
case
at
in
RJD.
2020,
Yeah.
why did the BJP make him chief minister? He had fewer seats. Because he is still the acceptable face.
Bhaiya, that question you have to ask the BJP.
But did they have, does the BJP have a Nitish
but according to my
my question is, does
analysis,
the BJP have a Nitish-like figure? The BJP doesn't have a Devendra Fadnavis like they have in Maharashtra. Who is their guy in Bihar?
Tamanna, please understand the 101 of politics, yeah? It is political maneuvering, the kind of face that that JDU and Nitish have collectively. May I respond, please?
Yes.
The kind of face that Nitish and JDU has collectively shown to the people of Bihar and country is that whether it is the RJD or it is the BJP, it cannot stick around. And this is the larger political message that perhaps, since you don't have a BJP spokesperson, this is an analysis which I'm trying to bring as dispassionately as I can. Perhaps this was the understanding from the beginning, that let him sit in the driver's seat, make him, throw an absolutely poor performance and demonstrate to the people how inept a leader he is. Okay. This is what Tejasvi succeeded in doing.
Now
this is what
that's
BJP
politics 101,
this
which
is
is really next level conspiracy theory. Okay, Sharat Pradhan, I have, and you're right, Subrashta, I have invited no spokespersons to the debate today, and there is a reason for that. Because I want my viewers to try and understand what has happened and don't want that noise which comes sometimes with political spokespersons. So you're right, I haven't invited spokesperson, but I want different points of view. Yes, Sharat Pradhan, your response to, the theory that Subrashta has presented, that the BJP knew Nitish would not perform really well in this stint, said, he's probably going to do this, let him decimate himself, and then he becomes politically irrelevant. Anyway, it's a two-side fight then in Bihar between the BJP and the RJD. What do you think of that theory?
Well, Subrashta has a right to have her own opinion. Well, I certainly don't agree with that. But first of all, I would also like to point out to her that when she talks about the socialist ideology being completely written off in Bihar, let me remind her that Bihar happens to be the only state where the left parties managed. CPI-ML got 16 seats. Unthinkable, even in the cradle of leftism, which is West Bengal. You couldn't have imagined that. So Bihar continues to have that kind of support base, and that is one good reason why BJP has not been able to take things to the communal level that it has taken, and that it has been playing communal politics that it has played all over the country. So that's the reason why, and BJP ought to be concerned to say that the BJP, as far as building leadership, you were talking about building. BJP after Sushil Modi was also eased out for, I don't know, for whatever reason. And after that, you think Sanjay Jaiswal has any political stature to match Nitish Modi? There is not a single BJP leader. They have never created a second line leadership because they want the remote control in Delhi. Amit Shah and Modi must have the entire remote control of the whole country.
Okay. And Ratan Sharda, let me come to Ratan Sharda on the question of allies. Is the BJP losing allies thick and fast because they simply don't need them? I mean, the politics of this country has changed since 2014. The days of yore when you had, large coalition governments seem to be a thing of the past for now. The BJP has managed to go it alone very, very comfortably in the last two general elections. They are very aware that they don't need allies per se, and the allies know it as well. Is a new model going to emerge for the BJP and their allies, Mr. Sharda?
This is the question of what Sanjay said earlier on. So just to add to that, Sanjay talked about Mamata Banerjee. He talked about Nitish trying to get into national leadership. But for some strange reason, he has not talked about Rahul Gandhi. Because Congress has decided that Rahul Gandhi is going to lead the next election, which means there is no opposition unity, which means then you are going to see factional opposition fighting with BJP, which is advantage BJP. Now, whether Congress will make the sacrifice, I have very, very great doubt. Whether Mamata will bend down, I have great doubt. KCR also believes that he has a chance. So we are in a position where opposition is behaving more egoist than they actually should be. Coming to the alliance partners, I think BJP has been able to retain alliance partners and has been able to make do with smaller alliance partners who take benefit out of those alliances. Those partners who believe that they can actually bully BJP have come to suffer, whether it's Goa, whether it's Karnataka, whether it's now it is Maharashtra. So BJP will not take any position of inferiority that opposition, any alliance wants to force onto it. As I talked about Punjab, which was typically high-handedness of Akali Dal, not BJP at all. And in terms of Bihar also, it was high-handedness of Nitish Kumar, not of BJP. And I can tell you, Nitish Kumar, as I said, he has made a wrong move at the wrong time.
Okay.
3 years down the line, Bihar has got enough time, BJP has got enough time to put its set together, to put up a development agenda. Because as I said, I have been saying...
Don't they need a face?
Yeah,
Ratan Sharda, what about the question of face? The BJP doesn't need a face in Bihar?
See, BJP is able to throw up faces wherever required. They have done so in every state wherever required. Yogi was not a BJP face, if you remember. People laughed at the idea of Yogi becoming a chief minister. Devendra Fadnavis was not a big face when Devendra was made CM. So BJP has a knack of throwing up second-level leadership where required. It will be able to do that. It has got 3 years in hand, remember.
Okay. Sanjay, your response to that, they don't need a face. They'll create one. Because at the end of the day, the vote is for BJP, the vote is for Narendra Modi.
On your show so far, the narrative at least seems to be that it is JDU which needed Narendra Modi and the BJP, and Nitish Kumar just got the chief minister's job because it was BJP's strategic game plan. Completely wrong. Don't forget that if the BJP got 19% votes and 74 seats, they also needed Nitish Kumar's charisma, his popularity in Bihar, and his ability to transfer votes. When you have an alliance, let me tell you, it rubs both ways. For the BJP's arrogance, that's exactly why it will boomerang on them sooner rather than later. You know, I agree that, you know, India has seen 2 elections where the BJP has crossed the halfway mark.
Exactly.
But, you know,
they don't need their allies.
Yeah, but I can tell you that when you lose Shrimoni Akali Dal, they broke up with the TDP in Andhra. You know what happened with Anna DMK, what's happening in Tamil Nadu, JDU today, a government that should not have gone out of their hands. I can tell you for a fact that if you think Maharashtra is over, it is not. Maharashtra is still up in the air. You still have a Supreme Court verdict waiting. You still have a BMC election, the results of which could change the Maharashtra dynamics all over again. I think the BJP is falling into its own trap thanks to its hubris. Personally, I'm more than happy.
What is the trap? What is the trap?
I can tell you, it's like digging your own grave. You know, Indian politics is far more complex. You know, we have all tended to believe that there's a Modi hurricane wave every time, and every time Modi goes, he's going to win it. I think everything wanes. In politics, there are no permanent winners, there are no permanent losers. And I think if the opposition gets any degree of impetus from the developments in Bihar, you never know what can happen.
Okay, I think it's a fight for existence. Shubrashta wants to come in. I think it's a fight for existence. You and Ratan Sharda have been taking the position that Nitish has really, you know, pair pe kulhadi. He's killed his own career. But in a sense, wasn't it a fight for existence, Shubrashta? Since you've, you know, worked with him and seen his journey so closely, did he want to be subsumed by the BJP eventually in his state? Or at least go out fighting with an independent identity? Isn't that what is more important when you weigh the two sides?
Tamanna, let's not talk about this only with respect to JDU's relationship with the BJP. It is with respect to JDU's relationship with the RJD as well. The problem with Nitish Kumar is that he's not able to see the writing on the wall. He is not as popular as he used to be, you know, after his first and second phase of chief ministership. Nitish has not done anything fresh or anything new for the voters in the past 10 years. So these are facts that he doesn't want to face. He's living in some parallel world of him being the most respected leader across the country. Well, let me correct Mr. Sanjay Jha and Sharat Pradhan also when they say that, you know, he's the only leader, you know, perhaps to have the charisma better than Mamata Banerjee and all of that. There have been so many leaders who have been chief ministers for 3 terms in a row. Even they had... Yeah, even for acceptability's sake, there have been so many leaders. Down south, you look at, Jayalalitha ji was there when Nitish Kumar ji was the chief minister. Both of them were chief ministers. She never showed prime ministerial ambitions the way he did. She was an extremely popular leader.
So is that a bad thing? Are you saying that's a bad thing?
India would have rallied for her.
Are you saying it's a bad thing?
So the point that I'm trying to make is, do not overestimate. No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying don't overestimate Nitish's power in today's context. The world has changed. It's not 2015 anymore. It's 2022. There has been a fresh rung of leadership in Bihar from all across the state, and nobody gives a damn to Nitish Kumar's political aspirations at this point in
but
time.
Think of it
because
this way.
JDU is the
Whether
third
anyone
largest
gives a
political
damn or
party,
not,
even
this
second.
gentleman was
hold
chief
on, Tamanna,
minister
there's another
yesterday.
point.
He's chief minister in waiting tonight. He will be chief minister at the end of tomorrow. And for the last 15 years, he's been chief minister. The world may come and go. That aspect of the story cannot really be ignored.
On a very
the seasons may change, but the
and
chief minister stays. Think about it. Sharat Pradhan just
on a very cordial and jovial note.
Yeah.
Let me, Tamanna, on a very cordial and jovial note. Okay, hold on. On a very cordial and jovial note, let us just challenge each other on one thing, Tamanna. After 5 months, let us revisit Nitish's statements. He will again feel stung and flung by the way in which Tejasvi Yadav and Tej Pratap Yadav would be treating him. If he really believes that being at the chief minister's seat alone is going to give him a lot of respect, then good luck to him.
I think he wants mobility and the ability to do what he wants. Okay, 1 minute. Sharat Pradhan, one question for you. What is this Nitish Tejasvi chemistry we are going to see? 1 minute. Sharat Pradhan, the Nitish Tejasvi chemistry. If you notice all the statements coming today. Let me ask my question. 1 minute, gentlemen. Ma'am, let me ask my question. Sharat Pradhan, the question for you about the Nitish Tejasvi chemistry.
वो बीजेपी में होते हैं तो भी उनका हाथ बंधा होता है.
नहीं अब हाथ बंधा है कि नहीं देखेंगे. मुझे सवाल पूछने दीजिए. Sharat Pradhan, please listen to my question. Shubrashta, let me ask it. The Nitish Tejasvi chemistry, how is that going to work out? Many are saying that Tejasvi is the one who's going to be, running the show. He's going to be pulling the shots. He spoke much more than Nitish and more vociferously today. How do you see that chemistry moving ahead?
Well, thanks to Subrashta that she's allowing others also to speak. So, well, what you are asking, I think the critics of Nitish Kumar, which here is the one BJP spokesman and Subrashta, that they think that every day is. I want to just remind them that every day is not Sunday. Things change. Things change. Things change with time. Please let me speak.
सर आप मुझे गलत लेबल लगाएंगे तो कैसे सुनूंगा मैं?
Nobody is BJP. What, Sharat ji? Nobody is BJP spokesperson here. What are you trying to say?
I thought Mr.
Nobody is BJP spokesperson. I made it clear there are no spokespersons here. There are analysts with different view. Please listen to everyone's view. Mr. Sharat Pradhan, please come to your point quickly, sir. I request.
Never mind. So I feel that things change with time. Political compulsions change with time. To believe, to go to draw conclusions on the basis, jump conclusions on the basis of the past, I think is a very juvenile habit. But some people, because of their prejudices, continue to judge and make their predictions on the basis of what has happened in the past. I feel political compulsions make people change, and political compulsions, including the great Mr. Narendra Modi also, has changed so many times. So, time is what leads people into taking different actions. So
we're talking about change. I'm going to end on that note.
One small thing that with Nitish there on the...
Tamanna, may I respond?
I have to wrap up. I'm totally out of time.
Responding, others have not been, never got a chance to speak.
Okay, please continue, sir. Finish your sentence, please.
Well, I wanted to add that I fully agree with what Sanjay said, and Nitish has certainly given a ray of hope to those who believe in democratic values which are being completely crushed under the present ruling dispensation. So there is some ray of hope. He may not. Mr. Sharda is laughing because that's why I thought that he was a BJP spokesman, because he doesn't like to hear this. So, I feel that people believing in democratic values.
It's not like I'm amused. a senior
You
person.
must be amused.
Tamanna, I have to wrap this. I have to wrap this. But how can one person who was not giving any hope 48 hours ago suddenly become a ray of hope? Is Nitish
Because he's
acting
walked
for
out of-
democratic
because he's
interests?
walked
Is
out
he
of the
acting
Modi
for
trap.
the BJP? Is he acting for himself? We don't know. We'll have to watch the
Whatever.
space. I have to wrap here. We're talking about change, but in Bihar, the more things change, the more they remain the same. At least the chief minister definitely does. What an exciting story. But we'll wrap it here.